Dangies Indoors proudly presents.
Due to personal reasons and my own personal safety, I have chosen to remain anonymous. I have been researching the Dogman for nearly 40 consecutive years now. The Dogman has evolved to a point where he is worldwide, it seems. There have been sightings everywhere. It seems as though he has unfiltered access to the web currently, and I have been having to change my IPs and run all of my traffic through encryptions. The Dogman seems to be hot on my trail. However, I always try to stay one step ahead, and I am going to track him down and find him. So what is incredible about this story is that this is a once in every decade encounter. Every 7 years, on the 7th year of every decade, the Dogman appears that 1 year only. And this 2024 coming up will be the one chance we have to see the Dogman live. Let me go ahead and introduce you to these brave men who encountered firsthand the Dogman and survived to tell the story.
I filmed the fucking videos for the Facebook, for Instagram Reels, for the TikToks, all the fucking channels on the YouTube and the internet and shit. And we was doing challenge videos where basically we do fucking kick-ass shit, man. Like, I drive a fucking truck, I go fishing, shit like that. But today we was filming the drinking beer challenge, and all of a sudden shit got turned wacky, man. Hey y'all, I'm Muskrat.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's me, Mosquito.
And we're here filming the drinking beer challenge. And what we're gonna do is basically see who can drink more beer and who's not a fucking pussy. So
Right.
we'll start with Mosquito because we know he's a fucking pussy.
Hey, fuck you,
Fuck
Muskrat.
you, Mosquito.
Yeah.
Alright, it's my turn, motherfucker. Hell yeah.
Yeah, this good fucking beer I paid.
I don't know how to tell. You can buy Natty Light any gas station for $3.
Yeah.
Yeah, quit fucking hogging the beer, Mosquito.
Hey, oh, what the hell? Oh, Nick, give that beer back! So we started doing the beating off challenge. And Dogman stole my beer. He ran away with it.
I seen Dogman before, and we actually fought him off multiple times. I got pictures of him on fucking trail cam and shit, and we fought him off on my property multiple fucking times, man. But basically this time, he came up and ambushed us and stole our fucking beer. Then Mosquito goes after him like a dumbass, and I have to go chase after his ass, dude. Mosquito! Mosquito, we gotta get the fuck out of here. Come on, Mike. Let's go. Get out I ain't ever run from fucking shit. I want you to understand that. But Mosquito's a fucking pussy, man. So I had no choice but to help his ass out and get us the fuck out of there. I could have kicked Dogman's ass right then and there if that fucking bitch wasn't always following me around. But yeah, so we ran the fuck away. What else can I fucking say, man?
So one thing that you have to understand about the Dogman is he is unlike any of the other cryptids that I study. The Dogman, he exhibits an incredible amount of agility and strength. He could lift 10 men with his bare hands, and he is faster than a cheetah. The Dogman has an incredible sense of smell and tracking ability as well. He exhibits those that you would find in a dog, but with the characteristics of a man.
Sweet Lord, baby Jesus!
Now, one thing that people always say is that, well, what is the difference between the Dogman and a werewolf? Now, we need not get confused here, because a werewolf is a man who can transform into a dog. Well, the Dogman is a dog who is transformed into a man. Now, this is an incredible discovery. There has been no other creature who is both man and dog throughout history. That's part of what makes this so interesting to study for me. I would absolutely love to get in the field and get samples, do case tests.
Oh my God! Dogman!
We gotta hide, man. We gotta hide.
Dogman!
Over here, Mosquito.
Where'd he go?
I don't know.
I don't think he can see him.
Shit, that's him. Shut the fuck up, Mosquito. You being so fucking loud. You need to shut the hell up, man. You shut the fuck up.
Oh shit!
Mosquito, shut the fuck up.
You check the fuck up, my guy.
Fuck you, Mosquito, you piece of shit.
I want to fucking kill you.
I think he didn't hear us.
I think he's gone.
I think he's gone, man.
I hope so. I'll be able to drink more beers. Before I die.
Hell yeah. So we hid from fucking Dogman. I thought he was gonna fucking see us because Mosquito wanted to shut the fuck up, but we got away by the grace of fucking God, baby. And basically after that, I knew it was time for fucking war. We needed to get our fucking guns, get our boys together, and kick some Dogman motherfucking ass.
Man, that shit was fucked up.
That was fucked up, man.
Yeah,
We need to
fucked
get the
up.
fuck out of here. We need to stock up on our fucking weapons, and we need to kill this motherfucking Dogman once and for all.
I need a cheeseburger first. But
Well, that sounds pretty good too. You can get the BK Creamy Mayo Deluxe for $3.99.
hell yeah. Fuck yeah, I don't know.
Fuck Dogman.
Fuck Dogman. I hate him.
So, a lot of people that watch my fucking videos don't even know this, but I'm an American fucking veteran. And I actually took down Osama bin Laden. I put a bullet right between his fucking eyes, man. And the man who was there to help me was Crop Duster. Now, Crop Duster lives with his mama, and I don't always hang out with him because his mom's kind of a fucking bitch, but you know, we had to go to him when we knew it was time to take down Dogman. So that's what I did. We were ready to fucking lock and load and kick some ass. Alright, y'all. We're here to round up our boys. We're over here at Crop Duster and Josh's place.
house.
Crop Duster, I don't know if y'all know this, but he actually helped me fight in the war against motherfucking terrorism. Osama bin Laden and Bora Bora Cave. We put a bullet right between his fucking eyes, man.
Fuck yeah,
So
with these.
we're gonna go,
Hell yeah.
get loaded up, locked and loaded, kick some dog man ass, baby. Let's do this.
Fuck yeah. We gonna kick Dog Man's ass. That son of a bitch, he stole my charger.
He didn't steal no fucking Charger. You don't have a Dodge Charger, you dumb motherfucker.
No, my phone charger.
You don't got a phone, bitch.
Oh yeah, don't. Shit.
All right, let's go. Knock on the door.
Hello. What's up, Cop Buster? How you doing, man?
Come on in.
Hell yeah. What's up?
Come on in.
Hell yeah.
I haven't seen you since the war. I know, man. We kicked Osama's ass, though. Come on back to the table.
Hell
That's something we
yeah.
gotta see. Oh, buddy, Charles. I don't like Josh because he's a motherfucking Biden supporter. Hey there, I'm Crop Duster.
I'm Josh. I like to chill and smoke weed.
If you want to know more about me, I was back in the war fighting terrorism with Muskrat, and us boys, when we got back home, we encountered the Dog Man. We were so close to getting him, real close.
The what?
The Dog Man, John. You don't know about the Dog Man?
I think it's coming back to me, so I don't remember too good.
Oh, he's a ferocious creature. Extra strength. He's rare. He knows everything. I know how to call him in. You want to hear the call?
We'll go on ahead.
Them fries, man.
So what brings all Muskrat Mosquito? All right, Crop Duster, we got something serious to talk about right
It's
now.
the Dog Man.
The Dog Man's back.
The Dog Man.
Man, I'm too high for this shit.
Dog Man's back? Dog Man's back, man. Where did you see him? We seen him out in the Ionian Woods.
Yeah.
Oh, that's real close. That's real close. What do you guys do about it?
stoned for that.
We thought we could lock and load and kick some motherfucking ass, man.
I'm not so sure. Ever since the war, they've been watching me with them guns.
The hell you mean they've been watching you with the guns? You said you had the most fucking guns out of anybody we know.
You're killing me. You're killing me, man. If you really need guns, let's go.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell, that's a motherfucking airsoft gun. We need some real armor then.
I'm sorry, but my mama took away my guns. I'm grounded.
My mama, when the Dog Man was there, she took our guns. I had to resort to the airsoft guns. We had to resort to these fighting Dog Man. It was just god awful. God awful. We could have got him. But my mama had to screw everything up. Like always.
Nah, bro, your mom's like chill. You know what I'm saying?
You know my mama's a bitch, and you know it, Josh. You know it.
Nah, she's chill.
What happened when my mama grounded me, she tried to take my fucking Xbox 360 away. I keyed her fucking car, I fucking siphoned her gas, and I kicked her ass, man. That's what you fucking do when your mama tries to be a bitch. But nah, he let her take his fucking guns away. And now we're fucked. How the fuck are we gonna beat Dog Man now? Well, I'll tell you we did, but that's fucking spoilers for later.
That's all. I can't do nothing. It's my mama.
Man, she fucking found them shooting guns at people.
Here's a gun.
Well, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Mama took my guns away too, so we gonna have to make do with what we got.
Here's a gun.
Locked and loaded, baby.
Weird, man. The stove don't taste like berry.
I think we're ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's kick some Dog Man fucking ass.
Hell
dude.
shit. But why you gotta have me a gun? I'm gonna kill someone with this.
Mosquito, just use it.
You don't kill someone when you kill dogs.
We're gonna
yeah.
kill motherfucking Dog Man, bitch.
You don't see Muskrat complaining over here.
Well,
Good idea. The good old Whopper.
If someone let me see one of them burgers, man, I'm fucking stoned.
Hey, man.
Hell yeah.
We gotta fuel up.
Hell yeah, this is healthy as fuck right here.
Oh man.
I'm at
Did you get that
birthday.
extra creamy mayo burger?
Even though Crap Duster fucked up, at the end of the day, he's a really good guy. And he helped me fucking fight Osama bin Laden in the war. And not to mention, he helped me through my depressions and post-traumatics. So, I can't fucking talk shit on fucking Crop Duster. And, you know, he was just trying to help at the end of the day. And he's my brother in arms for life, man.
Back, I've seen a raccoon over there. Back there in the wool, when I was with Muskrat, oh man, I don't know if Muskrat knows this, but before he took out Osama bin Laden, I was right there up. Oh, I was right up there behind him. I almost finger popped his asshole an inch. I would have been jamming my finger so far up Osama's up. Oh, his asshole would have been jam packed. But Muskrat shot him right between the eyes. He got him good.
You bet your life on it. After so much grievance and shit, we're gonna go fucking lock and load and kick some dog man ass that night.
Lock and fucking loaded, baby. Hell yeah.
Alright, y'all, we're gonna kill dog man. I got my gun. Lock and load, son of a bitch. We're gonna take back America. Fuck dog man. He's part of the fucking the Afghanistan, whatever the fuck you call it.
The buddies came along and I gotta help them out. Mama took my guns and I got these airsoft guns. Goddamn dog man going down.
Oh, hey guys, it's me, Josh.
I'm ready to
Kill
kill
dog
this
man.
motherfucking dog man. We tracked him down to the Ionia Woods where he live at.
We're gonna destroy his dog man.
We gonna kill his ass.
We're locked and loaded, boys, aren't we?
Locked and loaded. Fucking loaded, baby.
Where the fuck am I, man?
I don't know.
We got a dog man
What the
now.
fuck are we doing here?
Kill his dog man.
What the fuck is a dog, man?
I don't know. It's a man. It's a dog what turned into a man.
Man, I'm way too stoned for this shit. I thought we were just smoking weed.
It's a lot more than that, Josh. We're gonna go hunt the dog man.
We're gonna kill dogs man.
It's
Let me tell you something, Josh.
Come on,
Life
there.
ain't all about smoking motherfucking weed, man. It's about killing motherfucking dog man. So you shut the fuck up and you get in the motherfucking game. You understand me, motherfucker?
He's getting into it.
I don't know where
You pissed him off.
Listen to me, bitch. We're killing dog man right now, whether you like it or not. You're either along with the ride, but I'll kill you right motherfucking now. You understand
He
me?
just pissed off Muskrat.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's do this thing.
Just tell me, just cool it. Just cool it. Just cool it. Just cool it. Just let him cool off. Just cool off there.
Gotta hate fucking Josh, man. I fucking hate Josh. I don't know why the fuck you hang out with Josh.
Just calm down, man.
Plenty of bullets.
I'm just trying to get high.
We should probably start this
told you to shut the
Fuck up.
We should probably start this adventure before
All right, let's go kill this fucking dog, man. God fucking damn it.
See, look what's happened. Let's do
What
this.
did he just say?
We're gonna take out Dog Man.
Okay. Whatever, man.
So here we have an exhibit of the average man and the average dog. Now, these two on their own don't make anything particularly amazing, but when you combine the two, you get such an explosive combination of ability and power.
Look right here what I found. It's dog man shit. We must be near his lair, y'all.
What is that, man?
It's dog man shit. Take a whiff. Oh. told you. I told you. Let's go get his ass, boys.
I am there, John.
What the fuck are you doing, man? Why are you standing there like
What are
that?
you doing with there?
I fucking emptied my bladders because the Labatt Blue decided it was done being in my bladder.
Okay, man. Alright.
Josh, are you gonna quit fucking around or are we gonna kill Dog Man?
Yeah, I'm waiting for this guy. He's-
Wait, this man, your boy.
I ain't gonna fucking kill Dog Man. Let's get it. I ain't gonna stand here and fucking take some shit from Dog Man's. I'm ready to fucking kill Dog Man.
Now, one thing I think about this account is that instead of bringing airsoft guns, these gentlemen, they should have brought a frisbee in order to invoke the playful nature of the Dogman. Now, the Dogman cannot overcome its part dog nature, and it would just inherently have to chase the frisbee, which would make it very easy to catch.
We're gonna get him. We're gonna get Dog Man. And I know how. I still don't think we should have brought Josh, man. He just ruined the fucking
Josh
vibe.
don't have a gun.
That's fucked up.
Josh is just the man. He's giving us our
Josh,
life, man.
Josh
Smoke.
don't have the gun.
I don't know how he's gonna fight Dog Man. Wait, how are we gonna fucking find Dog Man? Anyway?
I don't know. We gotta find
Alright,
him.
fellas.
I don't know.
Alright, fellas, gather around. Gather around.
We're gonna say the Lord's Prayer. We're gonna say some American shit.
Muskrat Mosquito, you know, the last time we fought Dog Man, especially me, it was a tough time
It
for
was
us
mostly
boys.
me though.
But it was a tough time for us boys, hunting the Dog Man.
But I was the one that fought him the most.
I agree with you, but we're gonna
shit.
get him, and I know how. You have
Oh,
to trust
shit.
me.
All right, how we gonna do it, man?
Back when we were hunting the Dog Man, you had to summon them in. You had to howl.
Summons.
Howl.
All right.
Sir. All right, it goes like this.
Come on, boys. Come on.
We're gonna get him in. He's coming.
He ain't come
No,
yet.
he's gonna come. You just gotta
Why? You
wait.
gonna come?
He's gonna come. He's
gonna
gonna
come?
come.
Who's coming?
Dog Man coming.
Dog
Oh
Man's
yeah.
coming.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
For us. We gotta kill him before he gets us.
Oh shit! It's the Dog Man. Hell no! I've been killed by the Dog Man.
He got Mosquito good.
Mosquito, you were supposed to kill that motherfucker.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
What the fuck is wrong with
You
you?
ruined it.
You were supposed to kill that
Supposed
motherfucker.
to get that Dog Man.
Now he's got Josh, our best fucking friend.
He got Josh. Poor Josh.
I'm
No.
about to fucking finish it off.
Yeah, we all just kill you right now.
He died. We don't even gotta waste the bullet on him.
He died alright.
He's fucking dead. All right,
Look how bloated that fucker is.
let's go kill Josh.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go kill Josh.
I mean, Dog Man.
Yeah, Dog Man. The Dog Man.
Go this way.
I see it.
Hey, Dog Man, you want a hit of this? Oh man, use a lighter. Ugh, man, I'm way too stoned for this shit. Ugh. gotta inhale, dog, man. Let me see that lighter, dog, man. Like this. You gotta smoke weed. Let me blow it in your face. You feel that, dog, man? Feel the THC and the CBD and the CIA and the DEA. Feel that? Comes up, it's inside of you now. So you're one with the spirit world. You don't gotta do no more killing anymore. You just smoke the weed. Here's that. See, dog, man, I knew you was all right. I knew you was a good man. They want to kill you, but that's because they don't smoke enough weed. They don't know the meaning of peace. Yep. You're a good man in my town, dog, man.
This is the most amazing thing I have ever seen in my entire life. I had no idea that the Dogman would be capable of engaging in recreational activities such as smoking weed like a man. This is something that I would never have even considered. I'm gonna have to go over and throw away all of my notes and rewrite them from the very beginning.
Like, all these guys talking about like the dog man. I don't remember much of what happened, but we got like really high. So I think he's a cool guy. He's like pretty chill, honestly.
There's Josh right up there.
There's a dog man right there.
Dog man.
Oh shit, he got Josh. Come on, dog man. What are you doing? What are you doing?
You killed Josh. We're gonna have to put
Kill
you
our
down.
best friend. We'll put you down.
Put you down like a motherfucking dog.
Oh, he just snapped Josh's head. Oh shit! Oh shit! No! He almost get off! Oh, he got me!
You got your dog money, you silver bitch! You fucking silver bitch, you kill down! Right!
You may have defeated me, but I'll be back in 7 years.
What the fuck happens here? Are you alright, Muskrat? Come on, I'll get you up, mate.
What the fuck? Where were you?
They
Mosquito?
killed Josh!
Hey.
They killed Josh and fucking crap dusters. Crap dusters, your lives?
Oh, I'm alive.
Holy shit!
Get me my hat.
Holy shit!
Where the fuck dog man go? You didn't kill him.
I don't know, they killed Josh's! They fucking...
We know we killed Josh.
They fucking killed Josh's. They fucking the dog man did.
Well, it ain't our problem no more. It ain't our problem anymore.
They not our problem. They fucking killed Josh. Look at him, he's dead.
He ain't dead.
He dead.
He ain't dead.
He ain't fucking dead. Look at him.
His spirit lives on.
Look at we gotta get revenge on Josh against the fuck dog man.
Dog man gone.
Yeah, where is
dog man? What are you talking
I
about?
don't know. I came here searching for you guys. I was over there, and the fucking dog man was gone. He dead. I thought you guys were dead.
We ain't dead.
We
We
ain't
ain't
dead.
alive.
Look at us.
dumbass.
I'm sorry. I thought you guys were dead.
Tell you what, man.
We're gonna fucking kill dog man.
We already killed
For real.
him.
We're gonna fucking get him. Dog
We
man.
already killed
We
dog
already
man.
killed him, Mosquito.
Now, I just want to reach out and give a personal thanks to the brave men who killed the dog man. However, I can't help but think that this is an incredible waste. So many years of research down the drain. Though, I can't help but wonder, have the dogmen gone away? Have they disappeared? I suppose in 7 years from now, on the 7th year of the decade, we will truly know whether the dogman is still around.
You know, man, it was fucked up. We was just trying to fight dog man, and nobody was listening to what I was trying to say. How I was supposed to kick fucking ass. Hey, fucking Josh died because of it, man. I love Josh like a brother, man. He meant everything to me. And he's gone now. But goddamn did we kick Dog Man's ass. Hell yeah. Fuck Dog Man.
God, I miss Josh. I miss Josh. He's a Holy Spirit, man. Holy Spirit. Rest in peace, Josh. You were a true weed smoker.
Rest in peace, Josh.
Yeah, man, I don't even like fucking remember what happened. I just got really high, and then like I just like saw black.
Dog Man goes to Ionia. There's dogs everyone. Then he goes to the free fair and drinks a lot of Mountain Jack. Dog Man, dog man, dog man, dog man, beware. Dog man, dog man, dog man, dog man, beware. After he got drunk, he went to the woods. Dog man, dog man, dog man, dog man, beware. Dog man, dog man, dog man, dog man, beware. Ooh, dog man, hang it, hang it, hang it, hang it. I hate that son of a bitch. Yeah. He ate my dog. We got revenge on that bastard. Now it's time to drink some beer. Dog Man. Dog Man is dead now. No time to save and he won't be coming back. 7 years from now he'll definitely be coming back. Goddamn that shit fucking sucks. Dog man, dog man, dog man, dog man, beware. Dog man, dog man, dog man, dog man, beware.
Dog Man.
Mosquito, that shit sucked ass.
Oh, what the fuck?
Dangies Indos.
Beak.